Hey everyone, I'm Glenn Huey, Senior Editor with Popular Woodworking Magazine. In our November 2008 issue, I did an article on some of my favorite router jigs that I use in my shop that became very productive for me. And this one I want to talk about today is the one that I use the most. This is what I call my square platform jig. It's simply made two pieces of plywood stacked together, nailed together, and then an edge put on the front that allows that piece to then hook right on the back edge of your workpiece. The neat part about this is, with one clamp right here in this lower location, that jig is going to stay in place. Now the first thing you want to remember is you always want to set the jig up to the left-hand side of where you're cutting. The natural direction of a router bit is to push the router to the left. So as long as we have our jig on the left, everything should be set. We're actually allowing the router to push itself into our jig. So the neat part again is a single clamp. And everything's set and ready to go. Now what we're going to do is let the router base ride on top of the jig and the router bit run alongside the edge. So let's take a look at the router bit that we're going to use first. Now this is a multi-purpose jig. It doesn't have just one single use. I've got a number of different uses for this. The first one is to create a simple dado for a bookcase, bookshelf, something like that you want to put a dado in. This I'm going to use a 3/4 inch pattern bit. It's a top mount bearing, which is also 3/4 of an inch. Wherever the bearing rides, so does the bit, or the bit cuts right at that location. So if I wanted to create a rabbet or a dado all the way across my piece, I would then take the router and make the cut all the way through, blow through, clear up through the front edge. But if I wanted to make a stop dado, a dado that doesn't show from the front, then the only thing I would need to do is stop prior to reaching that front edge. And that's the shot I'll demonstrate here. Now we talked about the first use of this jig, and that's just to run a simple dado across our piece. In order to make the next cut, which is going to be the sliding dovetail for drawer dividers, we have to change the setup on our router. And here's where I've come up with a little ingenious setup. What you see here is a combination of a 3/4 inch outside diameter dovetail bit and a 3/4 inch outside diameter bushing. Where this works is wherever the bushing rides, because of the exact same size as the top of the bit or the cut of the bit, that means that dovetail is going to go in exactly the same location. So using it like we did before, we've got a straight edge down. At this point, when I lower this in, try to get at least a 1/2 inch cut of my dovetail bit into my side, case side, or whatever we're working on, and start this cut. Because I'm riding against the jig with that bushing, it's going to create a nice straight dovetail right in that way as well. The key here is you want to lay out the length of your dovetail slot, or your slot for your sliding dovetail for the drawer divider, and kind of hit to exactly that position. Let me go ahead and run this cut, and I'll show you what this looks like as well. And that's how easy the cut is. As you look in here, you can see that I've got my sliding dovetail area. It's set right even with my fence, so it's guaranteed to be straight in. Now in order to create the male part of this joint, you would then need to use the same router bit at a router table. Now we're not done yet, because again we have a third application for this same jig. We've shown you the dovetail portion and the dado portion. One of the most interesting joints when you join drawer dividers to your case sides is what's called the housed dovetail joint. Now I've shown you both ways to make that. So we have done the dovetail, we've done the straight cut. So once the dovetail portion is cut, I'm going to leave that jig exactly where it is. And then I'm going to take the first setup with the pattern bit and make a cut right over the top of that dovetail joint. That's going to show me and complete the housed dovetail for a sliding dovetail for your drawer dividers. Now, in my shop, that's a very useful jig. And if you'd like to get some more information, check out the article in the November 2008 issue of Popular Woodworking magazine. In there, I go about telling you how to build the jig, some ins and outs, and some special ideas that'll make the jig work for you over a long period of time.